everybody, I'm Eric Flowers, your Indian River County Sheriff, and this is In the Know at IRCSO, our monthly show that we're doing now here on our social media. We're playing it on the government channel. It's airing on some of the radio stations as well. And today is a special, let's call it In Pursuit on the Hunt edition. We've got our detective team here with us. There's other detectives obviously that aren't here with us, but Lieutenant Pat White is here. He's over our criminal investigation section, and Detective Mike Dilks is here to talk about a case, a couple cases actually that they recently solved. And after we talk about these cases, then we're going to transition into an unsolved case that we're still working on, give you some details about that and some things you can do to help us put a bad guy behind bars. So Mike, can you tell us, just starting out, a little bit about this truck that's behind us here?
So back in October, we had some burglaries that were reported here at the Sheriff's Office, and some of those cases take some time to solve. And with the public's help, we got a tip on one of the suspects in the burglary, which led to an attempt to identify bulletin being put on our Facebook page about this truck in particular and the gentleman who was involved. And instead of quickly acting on that tip, we began a long-term investigation into burglaries within the county, and culminated 2 days ago with the arrest of the gentleman, Mr. John Thomas Leo, seizing his truck. And as you can see in the back, there's stolen plywood, and that's the takedown that we, when we took him down, the plywood was in the truck. We actually caught him in the act based on that long-term investigation.
So there was a Facebook tip that came in.
Correct.
And then that led you to a prior burglary that had happened last year?
Yeah, actually October of last year, and then a second attempted burglary in January. And with those two tips, we were able to start a long-term investigation to wrap this gentleman into probably 20-some burglaries within Indian River County.
And using investigative techniques, you were actually able to catch him in the act, which is why that plywood is still in the back right
Correct.
now.
So we caught him in the act, and then we were able to find numerous other evidentiary items of other burglaries at his residence that culminated with a search warrant there.
Okay. And my understanding is you're still working through those. Like, there may be other burglaries that are solved as a result of this?
Correct. If you're in Indian River County, you're missing lumber, sinks, construction equipment. This gentleman here, Mr. John Thomas Leo, is probably responsible. The truck has actually been painted several times. It went out in the original bulletin as a gray GMC. He painted it red for a little while, then he painted it, as you see, black. So this guy's a criminal, and he was altering the vehicle's description based on our tip. So we would get a tip and put the information on Facebook, and this gentleman here would change the vehicle's look to circumvent our tips, but we were able to still catch him in the act of burglary.
Now, because of your actions a couple days ago, which was on the weekend, right? It was a Saturday that you guys actually took him into custody.
Correct.
He's sitting over here at the jail right now.
He was in jail. He bonded out recently.
Bond out.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was charged with 2 counts of burglary and 3 counts of grand theft, which was just the 3 cases.
Yep.
And we have many more investigations that we're still in.
He's admitted to some other things as well.
Correct. He basically admitted that wood, lumber, and anything in North County was stolen by him.
So he was going to construction sites, and that's what you actually caught him with. This wood that's here was from a construction site?
Correct. During the final takedown, he actually went into about 4 different construction sites, slowly drove through on the weekend, and finally stole the plywood that we were able to catch him doing.
So the takeaway here for us is, number one, if you're out there and you're a victim of a burglary that we haven't identified yet, and it sounds like this, maybe you haven't even reported it to us yet, this guy might be the suspect. You might be able to, still give us information. Maybe we can solve that case. The other side is, those tips that you get to us, it may take us some time. It may take investigation, months to figure something out. But our detectives are hard at work on every single one of those tips. And because of those tips, we're able to solve cases, seize this vehicle, recover items that have already been returned to those owners. And we're really proud of the work that these guys are doing. Pat, you want to chime in on this a little bit on this case?
We'll put in the time. We'll put in the man hours, whatever it takes. In this case, Detective Dilks spent countless hours at all hours of the night and day tracking this individual, and be honest with you, we thrive on that, and we look forward to going after those bad guys in our community. But to have the community in this case step forward and help us out with a tip, it's so important. You give us the tips, we'll work them. And another great tool that we have in our partnership with the Treasure Coast Crime Stoppers right here locally is a great opportunity to not only provide a tip, but potentially earn up to $5,000 on that tip if it turns into an arrest. So I can't emphasize enough about our relationship in our community that the sheriff has and that we all have with our citizens, and we need your help to solve these crimes. And don't be afraid to step forward, and we can do it in an anonymous fashion to protect anybody involved.
Now, there's another case that we also want to talk about. Had something to do with some side-by-sides, four-wheelers on a property. Mike, can you tell them a little bit about that one?
We also received another citizen tip about a high amount of traffic of four-wheelers that were showing up at a house, again in Winter Beach in the area of 65th Street and 48th Avenue. our road patrol guys acted on that tip and got me probable cause for a search warrant. And when we executed the search warrant at the residence, we actually, in that case, wrapped up 7 burglaries and were able to return all the property to the owners. We had a side-by-side Polaris, 2 4-wheelers, 2 stolen boats, a stolen Gnu engine, and a John Deere, and about $5,000 worth of tools stolen from Syngenta. So one tip, again, led to a residence where countless amount of burglaries and stolen property items were recovered and returned to citizens.
And I don't think I've had a chance to tell you yet, but last week I was out and a young man flagged me down and he said, Sheriff, I got to tell you, thank you so much. You guys recovered my brand new side-by-side. It was like a day old. And he was so happy that we got that back for him. He said, I only got 1 day to drive it and then it was gone, it was stolen, and you guys were able to recover that. And for me, that's the best thing in the world, just knowing that our folks have confidence that, when something like that happens, we're going to put a bad guy in jail. As a result of that case, you were able to clear up a bunch of burglaries.
Correct.
And you're still looking into him as well.
Correct.
To see if there's any other cases out there that might be part of this.
Correct.
Yeah. So Pat, overall, from an investigative standpoint, the big takeaway here for me is tips are important. Crime Stoppers is certainly a big component of this, right?
Absolutely.
And just tell us a little bit about how you guys get it once you get one of these tips, because they're coming into you, you're giving them out to the detectives. Detective Zilks is just one of many in the unit that's back there working on cases. Kind of how you guys navigate those tips for the viewers.
And these tips go from many things. We're not just speaking about burglaries. We're speaking about murders, missing people in the community. You name it, you can apply this tip through Crime Stoppers. You can call the sheriff's office directly, but Crime Stoppers is an anonymous way to do it. If you do earn money from an apprehension that's made, that's also done. The money's administered in an anonymous manner. It's an extremely effective tool that we use very seriously, and quite frankly, across the country, very few organizations have a tool like this available, and it's prompting a lot of tips when I get them. I obviously see what who they should be best be suited for, and if there's any validity to them too. We sort through them that way. If so, we follow up on them, and we have a very strong success rate on actually making all the way to full arrest and closing out a lot of cases when they come through. The community knows a lot more than we do, and if we have that partnership and that trust, we'll do our part to run these people down and put them behind bars.
And I got to tell you, what Lieutenant White mentioned about Crime Stoppers is such an important thing. Crime Stoppers is not a part of Indian River County Sheriff's Office. It's not a part of any law enforcement agency. They are an independent nonprofit group. They work completely, outside of our operations. When you call them and give them a tip, they figure out where that tip goes, who it needs to go to. They direct it to us. And then, as Lieutenant White was saying, if a payout is made, they will follow up with us. They keep your information confidential. We never get the tipster's information. We don't find out who gave the information, how they gave it. We know nothing about that. We only know the information that comes across to us. And so at that point, when we've made an arrest, like in these cases, and we've got a tip, we go back to Crime Stoppers and say, hey, that information you gave us really worked out great. Thank you so much. They have a board that makes a decision how much each person is going to get paid. And then they will contact the person back and say, here's where you can pick up your money at this bank. It's an anonymous way to do it. It's a really great thing. So for those people who are out there who are hesitant to report things, who feel like, I really don't trust the police, I'm not confident, which, I get it. I understand that, today's climate, there may be folks who aren't comfortable talking to us. Please call Treasure Coast Crime Stoppers, get that information, because what you have might solve a murder, might solve a case like this, might recover stolen vehicle, stolen items for your neighbor. It's really important that we get that information. So Treasure Coast Crime Stoppers, we're going to put the information at the bottom of the screen, and probably in the near future have on Rick Videri, who was a sergeant here at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. He runs that organization. He can tell you more about the anonymity of it, but I want you to know that every tip that gets called in, all that information does come directly to our investigative unit. Drug tips can go through that. If you've got information on fraud cases, anything that's out there, we'll take those tips anonymously. You can always call the sheriff's office. We'll take your tips. We'll have someone come out and meet you and start an investigation. but Crime Stoppers is a great way to filter it. And if you give us the tip, we can't give you a reward, but they can. We don't have the money to do that, but Crime Stoppers does. So give them a call when you have information on a case. Help us put more bad guys like this behind bars. And we're going to tell you in just a few minutes about another case. It's a missing persons case. We know that somebody right here in Indian River County knows about it, has information that could help us put somebody behind bars, and we need your help. So hang tight. We'll be right back after these words.